In my experience, I found that fear can get the best of anyone. But if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner and you let fear take over, it can wreak havoc on your business and your bottom line. Hi, it's Melanie Benson here. I'm America's leading small business optimizer. And this weekly podcast series is dedicated to help you run your business with the least amount of effort and get the biggest results possible. And I bring you guests each week that I think are going to help you with learning a strategy or a technique, but also they're going to go behind the scenes in their business and tell you what's really working so you can eliminate the guesswork and really start to model the success of great legends in our business world. So today I am so excited to bring you someone who I love and adore, and it is the fabulous, wonderful Rhonda Britten. I will share with you, hello Rhonda. I'll share with you a little bit about Rhonda, and I'll even share a little personal history with Rhonda and I. So Rhonda Britten is an Emmy Award winner and a repeat Oprah guest who has changed lives in over 600 episodes of reality television. And as the first life coach on television in the world, Rhonda set the bar for excellence in coaching. During her 3 seasons on the hit daytime reality drama Starting Over, which was, I was glued to that show. Every episode was on my DVR before I even met her. Rhonda was named America's favorite life coach and was dubbed Starting Over's most valuable player by the New York Times. Now, in addition to Oprah, she's been on all kinds of news shows like the Today Show recently, and way too many that we can get into in our very short podcast here. But I want to also let you know about her Fearless Living Institute, where she shows you how to master your fear of rejection, your fear of success, and we all know there's part of us that fears that sometimes. Our fear of failure, oh my God, how important is that? Fear of loss, and we've all had one of those if we're a business owner, and so much more. Now, Rhonda has become a really close personal friend of mine as well, and I just feel so honored that she's here with us on this podcast today, because I've been learning and growing with her as a student and a light stalker. I wasn't like a big stalker. I just lightly stalked her for a long time. And then I found out she was lightly stalking me for my business practices. And then we decided we were just going to be friends, and it would be perfect that way. And she's such a gift to all of us. So, hello, darling.
Hello, hello. It's true. All I would hear about is Melanie, Melanie this, Melanie that. And I'm like, who is this Melanie girl? And then I knew that we had met briefly in the
Oh, that's
past.
right, at the award show when you won the
Right?
award. Yes.
So just, something little. And I was like, and then so I saw you at that conference and I went, I think that, I think that's the Melanie everybody talks about that I've met before, but don't really know. And well, everybody talks about her. I gotta meet her. So I actually approached you and I was like, okay, I think we're supposed to meet.
You have no idea what that did for my ego that day. It was awesome. So I like to start by just getting to a level of clarity. Like, what was the catalyst behind creating the Fearless Living Institute and the work that you're doing? And I know you've got a huge, huge story about that. Why don't you tell us maybe the shorter version of how you got there?
Well, I'll answer the first question first, and then
Okay.
a little bit about the history. But
Okay.
the real reason I started the Fearless Living Institute was for one reason and one reason only, is that when I was going through my trauma, when I was going through my healing, when I was going through my personal hell, which I'll again share in a minute, is I would read a book and it would be awesome. Oh, I'd read it and be like, oh, this is so amazing. And I'd go to a workshop and it'd be awesome. Or I'd go to therapy and after I shut that book, or after I left the workshop, or after I left the therapy, I didn't know how, when the book said love yourself, I'd be like, love myself. How do you love yourself? I mean, how do you build confidence? How do you build confidence? So everything I read and every workshop I took and again, therapy or whatever I did, it never really got me to the how. And I promised myself that if I ever wrote a book, if I was ever gonna write a book, that there was no way I was writing a book without a way for when that person read that book and shut it, that they wouldn't know what to do next. They would know exactly what to do next. They would know to go to the Institute, the Fearless Living Institute, to discover the next class, to embody the things that I'd been talking about. So doing the Institute is really because of my commitment. Reading a book is awesome and wonderful, really inspiring, but unless you literally are on the ground doing the work, it won't integrate and embody in your life fully and completely as it could. So that's my dedication to creating the Institute. It's just my real dedication to change. And I know how hard it is to do it alone. I did it alone for 20 years. And I never want anyone, and this is my personal commitment, I do not want anyone ever to feel alone when they're going through change, because I just think it's scary. I think it's scary to change. So obviously that's one of the reasons I do fearless living. And how I got here and what that personal hell is, and I'll give you a very short version, is, we all have the pains of our past. I mean, there's nobody alive that doesn't have a pain in their past. And I have one too. And I was 14 years old, and I had the horrible experience of being the only witness to watching my father murder my mother and then commit suicide. And being the only witness there and the only one that could have stopped it haunted me for 20 years. And, my father didn't kill me. I wasn't worth living for, and I wasn't worth killing. So that moment really made me go, I really don't have any worth on this planet. And so for 20 years, I really showed up, in the world. I was like, hey, hi. I was still a straight A student, got a scholarship to college. So on the external, if you met me, you'd probably think there was nothing wrong with me, right? And I think that's so many of us small business owners, right? Like we project this, like, what?
Right.
So
the outside's perfect. Don't look inside the hood. The outside's perfect.
I'm amazing, and that's why you should work with me, right? But inside, I'm getting my straight A's, I'm getting my scholarship to college and all that, but inside I was in a living hell. And I had, I believed my negative voice. I believed that there was something wrong with me. I would sit there and go, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I get this? I mean, I've gone to worship, read book, why can't I get this? And it really wasn't until I took back my life after my 20 years, after my third suicide attempt, after drinking, blah, blah, could go on and on, all the horrible things I did in those 20 years. But in those, when I really got that it's fear at the crux of it and started to devote my life to understanding and mastering fear, that's when everything changed for me. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm so committed to it, because I know that people take this workshop and read that book and it doesn't come together. And I actually think fear is the thing that makes it all work. Like once you understand how fear works, then you're going to understand why that workshop didn't manifest for you, or why, you went to that, you read that book and you couldn't actualize any of it. You kind of start getting it, and everything that you've ever done in your entire life can start working for you. And that's my real commitment to freedom, and my commitment to fear, because I know how hard it is to wake up some mornings.
Yeah. I was remembering the first time I read Fearless Living. As a matter of fact, that was the book that introduced you to me, probably 20 years ago, whenever it came out. And that was when I was like, I love this woman. I have to meet her someday. As a matter of fact, I think I tried to get you to come speak at something, but you didn't live in LA at the time. And it just transformed my life, and it gave me so much hope at a time when I was really struggling with a lot of fears. And I think as business owners, there are a lot of fears that we struggle with and we get confronted with, and some of them we can't even admit to ourselves, let alone to someone else. What do you see as some of the biggest fears that plague entrepreneurs and business owners?
Well, I think a big fear is, obviously we can go to fear of failure, fear of success, fear of rejection. Those are the norm ones that we all kind of are willing to talk about, right? Fear of fear. But really, it's also, fear of humiliation and, fear of feeling foolish, or, fear of loss, like we talked about earlier. Loss is a huge fear for people. So, a small business owner, you don't want to look, one of the ways that we really manage ourselves is perfection, right? We try to be perfect. We try to pretend we got it all going on. And in actuality, that's actually stops us from the gold within us. So fear of not being good enough is the general fear that all of us have. Like, we all have fear, period, end of story. It's part of our amygdala, it's part of our biology. So you're not getting away without having some fear. And so when people tell you that they don't have any fear, they're lying. Or if they say they've mastered fear and they never have it again, they're not growing. So, you're going to constantly have a relationship with fear, and that's the whole point, right? You got to build a relationship with fear. So fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of loss, fear of feeling inadequate, fear of worried about being selfish, like, your mate, your kids are like, you're taking too much with your business. It's like all that stuff, and really that, again, the generalized is fear of not being good enough. And what I specialize in is helping you identify your core fear that's unique to you, because I believe everybody has a fear that's unique to them.
What about, and I've had this one come up with myself at times as well as clients, the fear of being found out.
Oh, fear of being fake. In the world of
Yes.
fake, that's what it's called, fear of being fake. Like you're gonna be, ha ha, right? You're not perfect, right? You show up like, again, I'm perfect, therefore you should work with me. And then you know you're not perfect. You know it. It's not a secret. And anybody who does any sort of work on themselves also knows you're not perfect. And yet you can't, break the facade, right? So yeah, the fear of being found out, huge one,
Yeah.
especially for women, huge
Or
one.
gurus, people who see themselves or have built up some kind of expert or authority status. And there's that whole momentum that comes with it, is like, I have to have it look like I know what the hell I'm doing.
Well,
And it's more real than I think any of us would like to admit, that a lot of times we're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, or, I'm figuring it out as I go along.
Well, it's true. I mean, there was a time in my life where I couldn't walk down the street without being recognized. Like I couldn't walk into a store, walk into a restaurant, or walk down the street. Starting over was on every single day, 365 days a year. Well, 5 days a week. 52 weeks times 5 days. 5 days a year, for 3 years. We had 3 million viewers a day. So literally, I couldn't go to Target. I couldn't, again, I didn't mind it because I wasn't a famous actress. I was actually changing people's lives. So they would always come up to me and thank me, or,
Hmm.
say, oh my God, you changed my life when you worked with so-and-so. So I wasn't stalked per se, like, famous people, but I was recognized enough. So when I got off TV, first time I was off TV, it was like I was still being recognized, but I wasn't on TV anymore. And it is, and this is what I want, I think, everyone to hear, is that you as a business owner will go through that at some point. So as a business owner, me included, I had a shoot out of the gate. Like I started my practice, and within 6 months, and again, I was one of the very first life coaches ever. Nobody even knew what life coaching was. And for the first 6 months, I couldn't get more than 2 clients. And I used to drive to them and charge nothing. And then my next 2 clients were like $25. And again, I would drive to them, right? And I live in LA, so it would take me 45 minutes to go to their house. So, I mean, to build my practice, I did anything to get clients. And then 6 months later, I really figured out the key on how to get clients. And within a week, I had 20 clients, and they were now coming to me. And then within a year, I was making like $10,000 a month, which is kind of crazy back then, right? So I had a huge, because I was one of the only, like I put my blinders on and I just went, right? I just went. And I did that for 15 years. And when I got off TV, my third TV show, and finished writing my fourth book, I was tired and I took a break. And that break took me places spiritually, emotionally, that hadn't been available to me before. And so, as a business owner, thinking you're only going to go one way, hate to break the news to you, in order to really do your work and be a great business owner, you're going to be like this. And if you don't come to grips with that, fear will run your life, period, end of story. And fear will run your business.
I totally get it, and I have been that person who runs their business in fear, and I know what that's like. It's in fact, could you share with us maybe a tip or technique, like if you find yourself in that, besides reading your book and going to Fearless Living, which I highly recommend, but like just something maybe we could put in action right now, like if you're in that paralyzed fear place, or you're holding yourself back, like what's something you could do to really kind of shift out of fear and get back into a flow place?
Well, there's two things that I recommend. One is acknowledgments, and I do acknowledgments a little bit different than most people. Acknowledgments, like most of us think, are pats on the back. I'm going to pat
Hmm.
myself on the back. Well, most people have a very difficult time patting themselves on the back unless it's like perfect. And what I want you to do is actually write out, today I acknowledge myself. I literally want you to write it out each time. Today I acknowledge myself, and then not a hyphen and then a list. Nuh-uh. You have to literally write out, today I acknowledge myself for, and then any movement forward. Anywhere, what we call in Fearless Living, a stretch, risk, or die. So, where are the stretches you took today? Where are the risks that you took today? And where are the dies? Now, this is the key. It is not about the result you got. I don't care about results. You will get results, but that's not what this exercise is about. And it's not about how well you did something. So it's not measuring the wellness, how perfect it was, and it's not measuring whether it was successful or not. It's literally only keeping track of whether you took an action, period. Not only that, not only is it taking an action, it's also if you have a new thought. Because so many times as business owners, we have a new thought and we don't give ourselves credit, we don't write it down, and then we forget about it, or we see somebody else doing it 2 years later and like, oh my God, I had that thought. And we beat ourselves up instead of giving ourselves credit for actually being open enough to receive a thought, to have inspiration move through us, to be inspired by our, intuition, to actually get ideas. And that is amazing, because so many times when we're in our stuck place and we're in fear, it doesn't feel like that flow is happening and we don't get any ideas. So just coming up with an idea, let alone not even taking action yet, I want you to acknowledge yourself for. So literally today I acknowledge myself for, and then any movement forward. And again, in the world of fearless living, it's called a stretch, risk, or die. Now, I'm going to just throw out what stretch, risk, and die means, because I think it's really critical. Because most business owners I know create a to-do list. Got to do that, got to make this happen, got to make that happen. And, on a scale of on a list of 10, I don't know, Melanie, if this is true for your clients, but I see my clients going, I did 1, I did 2, I skipped 3, went to 4, skip 5, go to 7, skip 8, 9, and I did 10. Aren't I amazing, right? Or they beat themselves up because they didn't do 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10, right? So what I always want to point out is that the reason you skip number 5, the reason you keep skipping 7, and the reason you keep skipping 8 is because there's an emotional component to it that you're not recognizing. That emotional component is, of course, fear in the background. So we just get a list because in our logical brain, we're I got to write a list of all the things I'm going to do. But in actuality, what you take action on is based on permission, whether fear will let that go, whether fear will let you do that today, whether you have the awareness of how fear is trying to trick you. So I do an exercise with my clients called stretch, risk, and die. And stretch is the things you can do, but you just haven't done. You can do it. You can send that email, you just haven't done it. Risk is, I don't know if I can do it. I mean, okay, I kind of know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know if I can do it. And a die is, I'm never doing that. I'm never doing that.
I will die if I do that.
I will die if I do that. That's not happening on my watch. Some business owners, right? I'm never going to public speak. Are you crazy? I'm an introvert, right? Or I could never, write a book. It's too much. I can't even get a blog post out, right? So there's these things that we literally make dies, right? And we literally think we can't do it. And we can do it, of course. We know skill level, we could do it. But it's that emotional component of fear. So what I teach people to do is actually make their to-do lists through a stretch, risk, and die filter. And then when they take a stretch, and when they take a risk, and when they take a die, and yes, notice I said when you take a stretch, which is things you can do but you just haven't done, you actually give yourself credit for that too. And right, today I acknowledge myself for, and whatever that thing is. And of course, last thing is you got to frame it in the positive. It's not today I acknowledge myself for not complaining, not interested in what you didn't do, only interested in what you did do. That's all I care about. Because if you start keeping track of what you are doing, you're going to start doing more.
I love that. I love that formula and the way to look at it with the stretching and the risking and then the what's going to make you feel like you're dying. Because I mean, there are things that I'm like, oh, I would rather die than do that. I know what they are.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point. So, people always say you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? Well, I actually think something a little different. I actually think I want your comfort zone to be really big, because you know what they say, the greatest compliment I receive is, oh, Rhonda, you're just like you are on TV. You in person is just like you are on TV, huh? Or they say something like, well, you walk your talk, right? Those are huge compliments. Another great compliment is, oh, you seem so comfortable in your skin. What a great compliment. Well, how is somebody comfortable in their skin? They've got a really huge comfort zone. Why? Because they've stretched, risked, and died their way into that big comfort zone. So I'm all about expanding your comfort zone, because the more comfortable you are in more places, the more powerful you're going to be and the more fearless you're going to be. So stretch, risk, and die is actually a tool to actually keep expanding. And the things that used to be stretches are now in your comfort. Risks become stretches, dies become risks, and eventually those dies actually become comfortable.
Love it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had my comfort zone expanded several times by the things that I thought would make me die. I've actually lived through them,
Yes.
and I didn't die.
That's right. That's right.
And
Me
now I'm more
too.
comfortable with lots of change and ambiguity and things that, oh my God, used to just make me fall apart. So
Yeah.
you're right, we do. So, you said earlier about taking this break. And I know that for many of us, that would be a huge fear, losing the traction or losing that momentum. And so, I'm wondering if we could go behind the scenes of Rhonda Britten a little bit. A place that I've been several times, which I just absolutely love learning how Rhonda ticks and what works and what doesn't work and what do we learn along the way. And I think you are a very successful entrepreneur. You've had a huge success on this planet, and you're in another incarnation of that now. You've reinvented yourself and you're bringing in a whole nother trajectory that you're bringing fearless living out into the world. But with that, like you were just saying, comes lots of twists and turns. So what would you say has been like one of your biggest challenges, just general being a business owner that you've had to conquer to ride that wave of success?
It's been interesting because when I first started my business, I had no problem putting my blinders on and just going for it. Like I didn't care what anybody else was doing, but you have to remember, there wasn't the
Yeah,
internet
there
really,
wasn't anyone else.
right? There really wasn't anybody else,
Right.
right? Like when I first started my business, I did emails through AOL, right? Like I sent them in, like had little groups and sent them out. I had a website in 1997, so I was doing things before most people. So I put my blinders on and just went forward, and I didn't care what anybody else was doing. Well, when I, you know, stopped being on TV that first time, and whatever 5 years ago, and just finished my fourth book, and now I'm taking a quote unquote break. It was really for my soul that let me put it this way. My highest value is my soul's growth, not my business growth. So I will do whatever it takes to support my soul in its growth. So I think one of the most difficult things as a business person is when I started moving back into the fold of like, okay, well, because I went through a whole place of, do I want to keep doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to keep teaching? Do I want to still be on TV? Do I want to keep writing books? Like, what do I really want to do at this juncture in my life? And I really allowed myself to kind of tear my business apart and tear my life apart and actually rebuild it and decide what I wanted to do. And that's an incredible exercise. And I actually do that once a year. And I just I say, if I did nothing, if I could choose all over again, like right now, what would I want to create? And I let myself imagine, right? So I think one of the hardest things when I kind of started waking up back and looking at the world out there is that the world had dramatically changed with, internet marketing. And, again, I've been blogging for years and stuff, but, it was a different world than, like
Mm-hmm.
Facebook really didn't exist. YouTube didn't exist. I mean, and I see all the people on Facebook and YouTube who are killing it. And, I have a moment of, in my fear, how it shows up is, they don't even know what they're doing, because if I had Facebook and YouTube, like I go into that whole, like, who do they think they are? Like I get into that competing and comparing. So that's where I go, right? Like that's where my fear shows up. And when I do that, I know that I have to do two things. One is I have to get back to my soul's growth and like, what is the greatest thing for my soul, and not look out there, unsubscribe to everybody's email list for a while I get myself back to center, right? And the other thing that I do is I put my blinders back on, so I look at my soul's growth, like what's going to be the greatest good for my soul right now, and yes, in business, but what's my greatest soul lesson right here in business? And then I put my blinders on and go, okay, what is it that is most authentically true for me right now? Instead of what's the best decision for business, I go, what actually is the best decision for me to be authentic? And then what's the strategy to play that out? Instead of going for strategy first, which I know I got caught up in that when I first came back into the fold, so to speak, and started looking around. I got totally caught up in strategy. And strategy is there to actually fulfill your vision, right? To fulfill what you want to make happen. Strategy isn't the tool to become successful. Like that's not actually how it works, you know. So strategy is to help you create the vision you have based on who you really are. So I think that's where I always go back to is, who am I? What do I value? What's important to me? Why do I do what I do? And what is it that feels right for me? And where is my intuition leading me? And that's always gets me back to what's my next step. And the step, like I'm a big visionary, like I have big, and I know Melanie, you know this about me. It's like
she is, by the way, the biggest visionary that I mean, her visions are bigger. Like I'm like, whoa, like that is playing big.
Yeah, my vision isn't writing a book. My vision is like occupying the planet.
Huge.
Right? And not only can I do that for myself, but I do that for my clients. So my clients come to me and they're stuck in this minutia, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, no, let's go out here, right? So it's really about leapfrogging past the small, it's about doing the work, doing the next step in front of you. So but you hold the vision at the same time. So there's like this vision way out there. Like I'm not kidding. Like it is way out there. And I'm going to do the next step towards that vision. And I don't even know or care when that vision is going to happen. And that's really key, because most people get caught up in, I got to make the vision happen this year, right? It's like, your vision is too small if you're focused on that. You're really talking about tasks and goals then. You're not talking about vision. Vision is way bigger than a year or 2 years or 5 years or even 10 years. So I use my vision to inspire me to take action in the present moment. What's the next thing with the set of skills I have, the resources I have, the support I don't have, you know, getting with all that is, what's the next step for me right now?
I love it. Have you had a game-changing moment since you've been back in the game?
Oh God.
Or like an aha that you went, why did I know this sooner?
No, I've had so many ahas. I mean, oh my God. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is the thing, you know, I'm a person that doesn't believe in regret. And yeah, if I knew how to work Facebook better, you know, it was not really there when I was on starting over. It was just coming in. So people weren't on Facebook like they are, or YouTube people weren't on videos. That's only actually happened in the last few years. And we forget about that. We forget that even 5 years ago, we weren't watching YouTube videos. Now it's like YouTube videos. It had to reach a critical mass. And so, yeah, do I think like, oh, if I only would have done it, you know, yeah, of course. But again, I don't want regret. So I always remind myself that I was doing the best thing for my soul, not the best thing for a strategy to make my business grow, right? So I've had tons and tons of ahas. And I think what I keep coming back to, because again, right now I'm in the middle of rebranding myself and creating new websites, and you know, I've just created 3 new products, and you know, just they're my babies, you know. So it always goes back to what is the next best step for me and what is authentic to me. So when I'm listening to people, I go, yeah, that's not me. And I think the other thing that I've done, which I've realized, the big aha, if I was going to say one, is that in the last year, I have hired several consultants, right, or people to help me, right? And after I work with them 1 or 2 sessions, I'm like, I know everything they know. So I know way more than I think I know. And because I haven't been in the internet marketing world for the last 20 years, I think, oh, I must not know it. But in actuality, I know a heck of a lot. And so I've actually kind of quit looking outside there for the miracle answer and gone, actually, Rhonda, you're the miracle. And again, just focus on your soul's unfolding, and you did it once, you did it twice, you did it 3 times. That's kind of easy for you, so you can do it again.
So it's almost like being willing to create the space to get clear and connected, and then applying what you know instead of that. I think a lot of people go into this frenetic searching when things aren't maybe going the way they want. And I know I've done that. It's like, okay, where's the answer? And then if you just get quiet, and especially if you have been around for a while and you really have learned a lot, then you can just take what you know and put it into some kind of a flow of steps. And it really, I think it does is it allows you to integrate.
That's right. And embody. Yes.
And embody. But also, then if there are holes, you'll be clear what those holes really are that you need support with.
That's right. And you know, kind of a filter. anybody you hire to support you, are they attempting to fulfill your vision, or they have a particular way of doing things? Because that's the other thing I've recognized with the certain consultants I've hired, is that I literally tell them my vision, and then they're like, oh yeah, well, okay, we got to evaluate everything, and then I'll come back with my suggestion. And seriously, every time they come back with exactly what I said, right? So anybody that you, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's Melanie or myself, or I don't care who you study with or mentor with, is, are they there to help you unfold your vision? And are you courageous enough to tell them your secret vision so that they can actually help you with it? Or are you going in going, I don't know what to do and I don't know what I should be doing? Again, that may be true, but you also are doing this for a reason. So are you willing to kind of tell your secrets to that mentor, that coach, to let them help guide you, support you? Because again, Melanie's been around the block, I've been around the block. You know, Melanie can shift you like that, you know, I can shift you like that in different ways. And you've got to be willing to have the courage to claim what you know, again, through acknowledgments, and then admit what you don't know, and allow that a soul unfoldment to happen. And you can't, again, you got to blinders on, and only go, I'm only focusing on my business, my next step, and doing what's right for me. Blinders. I got to start selling blinders, I think.
Only if they're pretty. You got to make them colorful and pretty.
I'll make them pretty. I used to sell jewelry when I was on Silver.
You should have little heart things that they put on this, like the one behind you, like little colorful hearts that go like this.
Mark, NDA. We're all under NDA right now.
Exactly. Nobody gets to make those until Rhonda does. Yeah, we will come after you with a lot of love. So Rhonda, you know, I love using quotes and mantras and, you know, like wisdom nuggets to pull me out of the quagmire, if you will, and, you know, get me back on track. Do you have one that you love?
Yeah, I love one by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I'm going to butcher it because I never remember it by heart. But this is actually was one of the key pieces of me starting to actually build a practice. Because before I didn't believe I had the right to my, because I really got clear that, you know, this has been given to me by spirit. I knew, like I was given like, hey, you're supposed to do this. And I was like, are you crazy? You're like a crazy person. I'm not doing that. And listen to this quote is the thing that made me go, me? And it's the quote, and again, I'm going to butcher it. I think it's in Self-Reliance that talks about how when you believe that what you think is the same as any man and every man, then that is genius. Like there's no, and how I take that is there's no separation between me and other people, and what I think is what they think. And therefore, if they have the problem I have, and I figured out how to solve it, then I actually have a solution for people that are at that place. And I think that moment, like whenever I'm like going, what do I create? What do I do? Ah! You know, again, I go back to, okay, wait a minute. I'm like everybody. And what am I thinking right now? And what is it that's helped me the most? And then I get back to basics and then start creating from there. So that's one of my favorite quotes. And it reminds me that I have permission to accept my path. I have permission to unfold my soul. I have permission to be who I'm meant to be. And I don't know about you, I think most business owners, I think they're still wrestling with that. They still don't really have permission. And, you know, I always say that I get people clear, I give them permission, and I show them how to take risks. And I think that's what we all have to do, right? That's we have to give ourselves permission.
And part of being a business owner is taking risks. You know, if you're not able to take risks, you're not going to grow, and that means your business is going to become dormant, or at least at the bare minimum, you're going to struggle along. Because at least in my experience, it's those big risks and those big leaps that you had to have the confidence and the courage to take. And it scared the living crap out of you that really were the game-changing moments.
And it's not, you might not even have the confidence and courage. You might not have the confidence to do it because you don't know, right? But do you have the willingness to trust your intuition that it is leading you somewhere? And that if you do not take that step, then you are not fulfilling your destiny on this earth. So you may not have the confidence. Like you may not be like, I don't know what I'm doing, but can I do it because I'm told to do it? Then do it, because you will build the confidence. You know, I always say that you can't get confidence without taking risks. You know, so it's like risks give you confidence. You don't have confidence first. You take risks and then get confidence. So are you willing? Are you really willing to fulfill your soul's purpose here? Are you really willing to fulfill your destiny? Are you really willing to give yourself the permission that's been already granted to you? And are you really willing to take the next step? Because you're the only one that can take the step. Like, I can't take it for you. Melanie can't take it for you. You got to take it. So are you willing to take the next step? And again, I'll be holding your hand. Melanie will be holding your hand. We'll be dragging you through it. But you got to say yes. Got to say yes.
You know, something I never asked you, and I've just become curious about listening to this taking risks, maybe because this would probably create fear for me, is were you scared when you got the TV show?
Oh God, I have been scared every time. You know, like the Stretch, Risk, and Die Zone looks something like this, and I'll actually give your viewers and listeners a free video series so that they can go and actually watch this exercise unfold, so that they know how to do it. But you know, when I first became a coach, and again, there was like 5 of us on the planet, I was like, I'm only doing private coaching. And I never did, you know, I never wanted to do anything besides that. And I had a client say, would you come and teach this to my team? And I was like, I don't do that. I only do private clients. Well, would you do it? Yeah, no. So I said, I'll teach you how to do it so that you can teach them. Because I was like, I was not going to do it because that's not what I do. And so I tried to teach her. I couldn't teach her. And so I said, okay, I'll come and I'll do it one time. Okay, I'll do it one time. And that's it. Okay. And I go in and I do it. And of course, I'm in front of an audience and I'm teaching and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever, right? And then I went, oh my God, I'm going to teach workshops. And then the next month I put a workshop up. And then as I had 3 workshops, I'm like, how do I fill up my workshops? I guess I got to speak. And every time has been scary. Absolutely. And of course it's scary to be on TV. And I had a client this morning, Melanie, and this happens to me more than I would, you know, fear-based, like to, you know, my ego wants to admit. But I'm on a phone with a client and they're going through a challenge. And I have no idea if I'm going to be able to help them. But what I do is I trust myself completely. And so I start speaking from that place of trusting myself. And I literally I'm speaking something that has nothing to do with what she's saying, right? But I am speaking out loud what is moving through me. And I am at my same time, my ego's going, you don't know what the hell's going on, Rhonda. That's not going to help her. You know, what are you thinking? Like, you know, she's not even talking about that. But again, I trust myself. Now I've been a coach for almost 20 years, so I trust myself. So I say it, and every single time my client goes, oh my God, how did you know? Or that's exactly what I needed to hear. So I still today, I'm going to speak in 2 weeks to 3,500 people at a keynote, okay? 3,500 people in a keynote. That is a heck of a lot of people.
Is that the billboard one?
Yeah, the billboard one. I'm on a big billboard on Wilshire. And it's like, I guarantee you that I'm going to be pacing in the back. And I'm going to be like, okay, hope this goes okay. But again, I say that from a place of allowing myself to be with my feelings. And I know I'm a really good speaker.
Yes,
I've earned my stripes. And I know I'm going to wow them and it's going to be awesome and it's going to be amazing. But it doesn't mean I don't have the emotions beforehand. And I think, you know, it's like 2 worlds. I trust myself completely, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a little like, oh, at the same time I'm leaping, right? I'm going to speak to 3,500 people. I'm going to be pacing beforehand. But do I know that it's going to be great? Yes. So can you live in those worlds simultaneously? Most people can't. Most people hear that voice of distrust and go, well, I better not say it. No, you say it anyway.
Yep.
So you have to be willing to live in the unknown and live in that place of like really the unknown. You know, I say that the only place freedom lies is the unknown, because if you know, that's really not freedom. So can you live in the unknown? Practice trusting yourself, moving forward, taking action, and not be confident and not even be all that courageous, but do it anyway. And then you will have courage and you will have confidence and you will be able to go to the next place and the next place and the next place.
I love it. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about when you're talking the phase that I went through when I was scared to death to trust that part of me, and then I would go back to my coach training. Don't step over anything that's jumping into your intuition. And I think that's the difference between being a mentor who you've learned a process and you're going to teach the process, and a coach who's trained to use more of an intuitive skill set and, you know, use discovery processes. As you learn to trust those instincts. And it took me a long time to build up the faith in myself to trust those instincts. And I love that story you just told, because I've had those experiences where I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with this, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I got to go there. And then they say, oh my God, and you're like, okay, why do I ever doubt myself? It's good reinforcement.
It's just a little thing you do. It's like, I don't even care if I ever doubt myself. It's just part of my process.
Yeah.
And so I don't even have that, like, okay, it's just the way it is.
Here we go.
Like, yeah, once you understand your process and your relationship to fear, and once, you know, you understand how fear works inside of you, then it doesn't run you anymore. You can actually look at it and go, oh, there you are, doubt. Hi, how you been? You know? And then I remind myself that Mother Teresa had doubt for 20 years. And she kept going, and she was the most powerful woman on the planet when it came to nonprofits and changing people's lives. And she had doubt for 20 years. I think an occasional doubt on my part, I'm doing pretty gosh darn good.
That's awesome. All right, real quick, let's talk about what's coming next for Rhonda Britten.
Well, as I shared, I'm in the middle of doing new websites, a light rebrand. I mean, I'm still going to do Fearless Living, of course. I'm still going to be teaching my same programs. But I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive in the life coaching department. I've been training coaches for a long time. I've trained over 500 certified Fearless Living coaches. And, you know, the 5 years that I was doing the minimal work and doing the internal work, but minimal on the external world, you know, people didn't even know that I taught coaches. They don't even know I teach coaches. They don't even know that one of my very favorite things in the whole world is to mentor coaches. It's like my favorite thing, because I know I can make any coach great. I know that about myself. It's like I have that skill and I have that ability. And so I'm really putting a lot of energy and effort and into my relaunching my life coach training program. And I also have a mini program for people that are already coaches and are already therapists. And it's the shortened version of my life coaching program that they can become a coach with me using the tools. So they can come in with their certification, they can come in with their license, and awesome, wonderful, we're going to put you in an abbreviated program and change and give you some more tools, and so you can work with your clients with fear, right? So that's a big thing for me. Again, rebranding with the whole new website. And then, you know, really starting to do all those lovely things, do more of what I love, which is helping people become fearless.
Well, let's remind everybody where they can find Miss Rhonda Britten.
It's RhondaBritten.com, RhondaBritten, RhondaBritten.com. And then if you want to get those free videos, go to RhondaBritten.com/risk, RISK. RhondaBritten.com/RISK, and you'll be sent to a page, and it'll say, hey, you know, do you want these tapes, these videos? And you know what it's going to look like. It's going to have your name and email, and then you're going to get sent to a page, and it's going to have 3 videos on it. And I really encourage you to watch all 3, because it's going to really explain the stretch, risk, and die. And it's also going to, more importantly, even beyond that, explain more about fear and the wheel of fear. So you're going to really understand fear more, so that you can actually move through it faster right after you watch those videos.
Love it. Thank you, darling. And as you've been listening in today, as usual, I'd love to hear what was an aha moment or something that really, you know, resonated with you or you're taking away from today's podcast. We love hearing it. So just type it down in the comments below. And if you're listening on iTunes, you can head on over to melaniebensonstrick.com and join us on the blog there. And Rhonda, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your extraordinary enthusiasm and energy and inspiration. You can probably tell why I love hanging out with her. Like we're so opposite in our energies. And I'm just like, it's so awesome to have someone bring so much great energy around me. So love you.
Thank you, Melanie. Love you. Thank you so much. Melanie rocks.
Thanks, darling. Bye, everyone. See you next week.